Hi, this is for Communications Class 110, and this is my persuasive speech on why you should watch old movies. Here's looking at you, kid. Rosebud. Stop! Hey, stop! These are three of the most famous lines ever spoken on film. Have you ever seen these films? You may have seen these lines parodied in a SNL skit or a South Park episode. Have you ever sat down and actually watched one of them? The truth is, no one really watches old movies anymore. Casablanca is one of my favorite films. It has passion, romance, war, suspense, all sorts of things that make you want to watch it. Because of these things, I feel old movies are special. Before special effects and sexy, steamy romance scenes in films, Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, and Marlon Brando were able to capture an audience and smolder on screen without blowing anything up or taking any clothes off. The Library of Congress also feels that these films deserve to be collected and respected and shown for future audiences. In fact, through the National Film Preservation Act of 1988, they have decided that films that are considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically historical or significant should be saved for future generations. The point is, old movies aren't just old, they're classic, and they can teach us a lot. In fact, classic films are a living history lesson. Film, ever since its beginning, has been a wonderful avenue to represent someone's personal opinion or to even embody significant historical events. One of many reasons that film, especially classic films, are important. Film is definitely part of our history. I'd like to first take a look at the first blockbuster film ever, which is D.W. Griffith's 1915 film, Birth of a Nation. Although this film was incredibly controversial, it showed a point of view after the Civil War that was rarely seen, the view of the South. The KKK is shown as a heroic group in this film. Blacks and whites were outraged by the film alike, and in fact, it was the first film ever to be viewed at the White House by Woodrow Wilson, because there was so much hubbub about the film. Many people felt that way after the Civil War, especially folks in the South, and this film is an important film because it captures those feelings. Another incredible film that is an historical point is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. In the film, a young white woman, with liberal parents, brings her black fiancé home to have dinner with his parents and her parents. The film was very unique in the fact that it showed a positive light on interracial relationships. Another incredible film that shows a difficult time in American history is The Grapes of Wrath. In it, we follow the Joad family during the Depression as they lose their family home and are forced to travel with whatever possessions they can carry to California as they look for work. This film shows how many suffered during the Depression and in fact gives a personal representation of that suffering. Now that you know why classic films are so important, let's actually get you watching some of them. In fact, to get watching a classic film, you may just simply need to turn your television on. Many television networks such as PBS, Turner Classic Movies, and American Movie Classics constantly show classic films worth watching. You may also be able to stream classic films from Netflix. The other option is to buy one. Believe it or not, you can actually buy a classic film for less than $10, the cost of watching something brand new in a theater. Not only does this allow you to own the film, but you can borrow it to a friend, and of course, if you love the film, you can watch it over and over again. The next question might be, what classic film should I be watching? Believe it or not, there are many cinematic minds that will help you discover which are some of the greatest films ever made. Film critics, such as Leonard Maltin and Roger Ebert, have lists of their own that they consider some of the greatest films ever made. Past Oscar winners are also a wonderful point to search for wonderful films worth watching. AFI, or the American Film Institute, also has its own personal list of 100 movies that you should watch before you die. They also have multiple lists of films in specific categories that should be watched. So the next question is, what will you get out of all this hard work? Classic films actually teach us a lot about when the film was made or about the era that the film is set. You can learn much about social acceptance at the time, regardless of if it's set in current time for the film or a specific era. clothing trends and other social facts of the era, and a personal perspective of the character as they go through this time. You can also impress coworkers and friends with your knowledge of classic films and also know classic lines by heart. You can connect with these incredible characters and storylines as well. The point of these films is that since special effects didn't exist, everything was based on character reenactment. So what if you don't want to put all this hard work into looking up what films you should watch? By watching one film that I have mentioned throughout this speech, you are placing a step in the right direction. Old movies are not just black and white old movies. They are epic stories that should be retold and re-experienced by each generation. They show landmark events in the eyes of someone who experienced them, whether it was during the time that the film was shot or if it's capturing a specific era. If they weren't worth watching over and over again, why do we continue to parody them in current shows and television? I truly hope that you watch one of these classic films, if for no other reason, so that the next time someone says, "Here's looking at you, kid," you can imagine Elsa standing on that runway in Casablanca, tears in your eyes, and that gut-wrenching feeling in your heart as she steps on that plane. Thank you. This has been my speech, and this has been my audience. My boyfriend, Steve. Say hi, Steve. And my mom and dad Skyping in from Florida. Say hi, Mom and Dad.
Hi.
Thank you for watching.